Welcome to our KFM podcast. We are going to look at the introduction of Human Rights Bill under Chapter 4 of the Kenyan Constitution.
Thank you, Fred. We do appreciate welcoming us to the studio, like always. And we have spoken human rights. It's a big topic. It's actually Chapter 4 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And what is it about? Many people would ask. It's all about self-actualization of the person. Because the definition of rights is that they are inherent, they are God-given. It's not any government that gives you rights. The government is only to facilitate you to enjoy those rights. And normally there are 5 principles that we look at when you're coming to human rights topic. The first thing is the universality of rights, the inalienability of rights, meaning that nobody can take them away from you. Universality means that whether you're in Japan, Ukraine, Kenya, Mozambique, rights will always be the same. Whether you're the president of the US or a common man in Saudi Arabia, the same rights that president enjoys is the same rights that you should enjoy. Of course, there are privileges, but privileges are not rights. Those are just as they are, privileges. Then when it comes to the other principle is the principle of inalienability, meaning that nobody can take them away from you. Then the third principle we look at is the principle of indivisibility, that you can't give me rights, half of it, and then you tell me I'll give you the other half. And a good example is right to life. You can't tell me that you're giving me half the right to live. It's either I'm dead or I'm living. Then there is the other principle, which is we call the principle of interdependence, that one principle, one right depends on the other to be actualized. For example, my right to life depends on the right to food. It depends on right to health, because if I don't eat and I am not of good health, then I'm not going to also enjoy the right to live. So when you're looking at rights in the Constitution of Kenya, we must look at it from that particular principle. The other important thing, because I know we will be discussing further in terms of what are these particular rights, it is important for us to understand that the Constitution empowers the courts to be able to be approached and define rights, actually not even define, promote and protect rights of individuals. Because we've seen the duty bearers, for example, the government or the persons with the highest responsibility when it comes to protecting rights, failing in their responsibility. So you can actually institute a matter in court seeking the court to force a particular duty bearer. For example, a child who has been denied his or her rights to education, they can go to court and say, you know what, the duty bearer, who in this case is the school or the Ministry of Education, has failed to recognize and promote and protect my right to education. And that's where you see the many kinds of cases like the known Okia Umtata running to court called public interest courts cases, or Legal Resources Foundation or Kenya National Commission. Basically is pursuing that article in the Constitution that requires the court to force duty bearer to ensure that that right is realized, and that is important. And now most people would say, you know, I do not know how to proceed to court to protect my rights. Important to the Constitution, it goes ahead and says that you can have an intermediary or a person who has got can represent you, not necessarily a lawyer, but somebody who knows where to find the law, to go to court on your behalf and pursue that particular matter to ensure that you enjoy those particular rights as they are. Now, when you look at the courts, sometimes people go to the courts with who we call friends of the court. A good example, you're pursuing your right to health, and a judge or a magistrate is only a lawyer, doesn't understand the language of the hospital and health. So sometimes you may bring a health practitioner, a doctor, to come as a friend to the court, to help the court understand where we are coming from. That if this particular right is not respected, promoted, recognized, then there will be undue disrespect of that person's right to good health. So those are the key things that we look at when you're looking at the definitions of Bill of Rights. Of course, moving further in phase 2, what you're going to look at, we'll now look at the specific rights. I've already started speaking to right to life, right to citizenships, right to good health, and the rest. So when you're looking at that, we will break it down. But for now, it's important to recognize that we have got 3 categories of rights. We have got the civil and political rights. That the civil and political rights is about your actualization in the political and civil platform or arena. For example, right to vote, that is your civil right, to make choice of a leader that you want, that will help you grow in many other things. Right to have citizenship of a country. Nobody should be stateless, that you do not belong to a particular country. Those are the civil and political rights, and we'll look at them in detail. Then we have got socio-economic rights that have been provided under Article 43 of the Constitution, still in Chapter 4. And this is about you are living in society. That's what's called the socio-economic and political rights. For example, we are talking about the cost of living going up, the cost of foods going up, the cost of fuel going up. What does that mean to your right to economic growth and development? Then we have got the third generation rights, which we call sometimes solidarity rights. For example, right to participate. There are conversations around that, whether they are actual rights, but the reality of it in the Constitution is that we recognize the third generation rights actually as rights to that. So thank you very much, Fred and Haki FM for having us, and we'll definitely go further in the next show to speak more about the breakdown of how the rights are provided in the Constitution of Kenya. Thank you.
Stay tuned to learn more on our podcast.